I never cared much for video games. Sure, I played them when I was younger, when life was simpler, before work and bills and responsibilities swallowed up my time. But even then, they were just that, games. A way to pass the time, not something to build your life around. My wife, though, she loved them. At first, I thought it was just a hobby. Something she did to unwind after work, a harmless escape. And in the beginning, it was exactly that. She'd log in for an hour or two, laugh with her online friends, then shut it down and come to bed. It didn't bother me. If anything, I was glad she had something she enjoyed. We all need a little distraction from reality now and then. But distractions have a way of becoming obsessions. Over time, her 1 or 2 hours stretched longer and longer. She stopped coming to bed when I did. Instead of spending our evenings together, she spent them locked in her gaming room, headset on, fingers flying over the keyboard like the game was the only thing keeping her alive. At first, I told myself it was fine. People have hobbies. People need space. But then the little things started to change. She started closing the door when she played. Started flinching when I walked in. Started laughing, really laughing, like she used to when we first met, but only when she was talking to someone through that damn headset. I should have known, but I was stupid. I let it slide. I let her slide. That night, though, I finally saw it for what it was. It was a Wednesday. I remember because it was my only easy day at work that week. I got home before her, made dinner, and sat on the couch waiting for her to be done with her game. She was already logged in before she even took her shoes off. Just a quick session, she had said. 1 dungeon, then I'm done. That was 3 hours ago. I wasn't watching TV so much as staring at it. The voices from her room buzzing faintly in the background. I'd grown used to them. Strangers whose names I didn't know. People who took up more of her time than I did. The door was shut like always. I got up to grab a drink from the kitchen. As I walked past her door, my brain barely registered the sounds from inside. Just another night of her gaming. But then I heard her voice. Clear. Sharp. I want to be with you, not with him. It was like my body knew before my mind did. Before I even processed what she had just said, my hand was on the doorknob, twisting, shoving it open. She sat there, back to me, headset still clamped over her ears, screen glowing in front of her. She wasn't just playing. She was talking. To him, whoever he was. And I was standing there, hearing it, watching it, realizing what had been happening right under my nose. For how long? Weeks? Months? She spun in her chair, yanking off the headset so fast the cord nearly snapped. Her face went pale the second she saw me, like she'd just been caught stealing. Wait, she blurted. It's not what you think. Her voice had that same desperate edge people get when they know they're cornered, when they're scrambling for an escape that doesn't exist. But I wasn't some fool she could smooth talk her way out of. I already knew. I knew the late nights weren't just about gaming. I knew the door wasn't closed because she didn't want to disturb me. I knew the laughter she shared with them. With him was the same laughter I used to get before I became just another background noise in her life. I knew. And now, she knew that I knew. My hands curled into fists, my pulse hammering in my ears. Anger rose inside me like a tidal wave, pulling me under, dragging every rational thought with it. My chest was tight, my breath short, like my own house had just turned into a prison. Not what I think. She had no idea what I was thinking. She had no idea what was about to happen next. She stared at me, frozen, mouth slightly open like she was still scrambling for words that wouldn't come. I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to piece together some kind of excuse that wouldn't make this worse. But it was already worse. It was already ruined. Her headset dangled from the edge of her desk, the screen in front of her still glowing with that damn game. The world she had been lost in, the one she had chosen over our world, was still there, bright and colorful and completely untouched by the disaster unfolding in this room. But I wasn't looking at the game. I was looking at her, and I hated what I saw. There was guilt in her eyes. But guilt didn't mean regret. Guilt just meant she got caught. A muscle in my jaw twitched as I fought to keep control of myself. My entire body burned with the kind of rage that felt like it could split me in two. My fists clenched so tightly that my nails dug into my palms, grounding me in the only thing I could hold on to, anger. I took a step forward. She took a step back. What the hell did I just hear? My voice was low, dangerous. A warning. She swallowed hard. You don't understand. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Oh, I don't understand? Then why don't you help me out, huh? Help me understand why my wife is sitting here in my house, in my damn home, telling some random guy she wants to be with him instead of me. I saw her flinch, like the words themselves had slapped her. Good. She deserved worse. She shook her head quickly, trying to regain control of the situation. It's not like that, I swear. I cut her off. Then what the hell is it like? She hesitated. Too long. I could see the gears turning, searching for a way out, a way to soften the blow, to make herself look like less a monster than she was. You're blowing this out of proportion, she said finally, her voice quieter, careful. Like she was trying to keep me calm, like I was some ticking time bomb she had to defuse. That only made it worse. Out of proportion? My voice rose, the heat in my chest boiling over. Are you serious right now? You were just on that headset telling another man you wanted him instead of me. And I'm the one blowing things out of proportion? She winced. It's not that simple. I stepped closer, pointing at her screen. Who is he? She didn't answer right away. That hesitation? That told me more than words ever could. I already knew. Whoever he wasn't just some casual friend. He wasn't just some guy she played a game with. He was something more. Something she wasn't willing to admit to. And that was all I needed to know. How long? My voice was steel now. Cold. Flat. She bit her lip, arms wrapped around herself like she could physically hold in the truth. I took another step. I said, how long? She sucked in a shaky breath. A few months. A few months. I closed my eyes for a brief second, just to stop myself from putting my fist through the wall. Months. While I was sitting in the next room, while I was making her dinner, while I was going to bed alone, thinking she was just playing a game, she was here, whispering to another man, telling him things that she should have only been saying to me. I turned away from her before I did something I'd regret. My eyes landed on the computer, the glowing screen, the game. That damn game. The source of everything. Before I could stop myself, I reached down and yanked the power cord straight out of the wall. The screen went black instantly, cutting off whatever world she had been living in. The headset hit the floor with a dull thud. The silence that followed was suffocating. She gasped, stepping toward me. What the hell are you doing? I whirled back to her. What am I doing? What the hell do you think you were doing? You've been lying to my face for months. Sitting in here, talking to some other guy, telling him things I should be hearing. And you expect me to just sit here and take it? Her eyes burned with something close to anger now. But it wasn't anger at what she had done. It was anger at me for reacting. Look, I didn't cheat on you, okay? She snapped. It was just talking. That's all. I laughed again, shaking my head. Just talking? That's funny because just talking doesn't usually include, I want to be with you, not with him. Her face went pale again. She knew there was no talking her way out of that one. You heard that? She whispered. Yeah, I said, my voice like ice. I heard every damn word. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, to fight back, to say something. But nothing came out. For once, she had nothing. And I'd never hated her more. She stood there, her lips parted like she wanted to say something, like she had some magic excuse that would make this all disappear. But there was nothing she could say. No explanation that would make me unhear those words. I want to be with you, not with him. They echoed in my head, over and over, louder than her weak attempts at damage control. She looked smaller now, like she was caving in on herself under the weight of my rage. Good. She deserved it. I stared at her, waiting. I wanted to see if she'd try to keep lying, to keep feeding me the same pathetic justifications. She hesitated, then crossed her arms, her voice sharp when she finally spoke. Look, I know this looks bad. I barked out a laugh, so sharp and humorless that it made her flinch. Looks bad? Are you serious? You just told another man you want him instead of me, and you think this just looks bad? Her jaw tightened. I could see the gears turning in her head, desperate to spin this into something smaller, something that wouldn't destroy everything we had built. But she wasn't fast enough. Who is he? I demanded, stepping forward. She took a tiny step back. You don't need to know that, she said quickly. Too quickly. That sent a fresh wave of rage through me. I laughed again, shaking my head. Oh, I don't need to know. My wife has been sneaking around, whispering to some guy in my own house, and I don't need to know. She swallowed hard. It's not what you think, okay? It's just a friendship that got out of hand. That's all. My stomach twisted, a sick knot of fury and disgust. A friendship. That's what she was calling it. You don't tell a friend that you want to be with them instead of your husband. I spat. She looked away. That told me everything. How long have you been talking to him? My voice was lower now, deadlier. She hesitated. Too long. A few months, she admitted, barely above a whisper. I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth might crack. Months. For months, she had been right here, in this house, lying to my face, sneaking off to talk to him. And I had been too blind, too trusting to see it. You ever meet him in person? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. She sucked in a sharp breath, her whole body stiffening. That second of hesitation was all I needed. You did, I said, my voice colder than ice. She didn't answer. I took a step closer, stared her down. How many times? She shook her head quickly. It wasn't like that, I swear. How many times? I repeated, voice razor sharp. She squeezed her eyes shut, like she could block this all out, pretend it wasn't happening. Then, finally, she whispered just once. I let out a breath through gritted teeth, trying to keep the explosion inside me contained. Just once, I repeated, my voice shaking with barely controlled fury. You expect me to believe that? You expect me to just take your word for it when you've been lying to my face for months? She wiped at her face, but there were no tears. Not yet. I was going through a rough time, she said, her voice small now. I felt alone. You were always so busy. I snapped. Oh, so this is my fault now. I didn't say that, she shot back, her voice rising. You didn't have to, I snarled. The room went silent, the air thick with everything that had been left unsaid between us for far too long. She shifted, rubbing her arms like she was cold. Look, I know I messed up, okay? I know She took a shaky breath. I never meant for it to get this far. I scoffed. You never meant for it? What, you just accidentally spent months sneaking around with some guy behind my back? You could just accidentally met up with him? You just accidentally told him you wanted to be with him instead of me? She squeezed her arms tighter around herself, like she was trying to hold herself together. I was confused. I let out another sharp laugh. Confused? Confused. I stepped even closer, my voice like a blade. Let me make things simple for you. There is no confusion here. You chose this. Her eyes darted around, desperate for something, anything to latch onto. I shook my head. You know what? No, I'm not doing this. I'm not standing here, listening to you try to spin this into something smaller than what it is. I gestured wildly at her desk. You've been sitting here for months in my house, in my life, pretending to be my wife while running off to play house with someone else. Her breath hitched. That's not fair. I barked out a bitter laugh. Not fair? Not fair. What part of this is fair to me? She didn't answer, because she couldn't. I turned away, pacing to keep from punching a hole in the damn wall. The room felt smaller now, suffocating. Then something hit me. I spun back toward her. Wait a second. She stiffened. I narrowed my eyes. When did you meet him? Her lips parted. I told you just once. When? She hesitated, and that hesitation was my answer. I stepped closer, heart pounding. Did you meet him while I was out of town last month? She didn't speak. That was all I needed. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Wow. I was gone for work, busting my ass for our life, and I stopped, shaking my head. Unbelievable. She reached out a hand, desperate now. Please, just listen to me. I stepped back, away from her touch like it was poison. You don't get to beg now, I snapped. You made your choice. Her face twisted in something close to panic. But I didn't want to hear another word. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a joke. A game she played when she was bored of her real life. And I wasn't going to be her second choice. I turned, storming out of the room. She called my name. I didn't stop. I couldn't, because if I stayed in that room any longer, I might do something I wouldn't regret. I didn't remember walking out of that room, didn't remember moving through the hallway or reaching the front door. All I knew was that I needed to get out, away from her, away from the walls that now felt like they were closing in, away from the sickening weight pressing down on my chest. I barely registered the sound of her footsteps behind me, her frantic voice calling my name. I didn't care. I didn't stop. The cold night air hit me like a slap when I stepped outside, but it wasn't enough to cool the fire burning through me. My hands were still clenched, my breath coming out in ragged bursts. Months. She had been talking to him for months. All those late nights, all those times she said she was just playing her game, every moment she chose to shut that door and lock herself away. Every single one of them had been a lie. And the worst part? I had trusted her. I had never once thought she would be the type to do something like this. That was the part that made me hate her the most, because now I had to accept something I didn't want to believe. She had never been the person I thought she was. Behind me, the front door creaked open. "Please," she said, her voice quieter now, less frantic. Can we talk?" I let out a sharp, humorless laugh, shaking my head. "Talk? You had months to talk to me. You chose to talk to him instead." She hesitated. I never meant for you to find out like this." I spun to face her, fury snapping through me like a live wire. "Oh, so that's what you're upset about? That I found out?" I took a step closer, watching her flinch. "You weren't going to tell me, were you? You were just going to keep sneaking around, keep playing your little game, keep lying to me until you figure out if he was worth throwing everything away for." Her lips parted, but no words came out. That told me everything. I scoffed. Unbelievable. She crossed her arms, shifting like she wanted to disappear. I was confused. I laughed, but it was empty. Hollow. Confused? That's the best you've got. I gestured toward the house, toward everything. You've got a husband, a home, a life we built together, and you were confused. Her face twisted like she wanted to argue, but she didn't, because she knew. "You don't understand," she muttered. I snapped. "No, you don't understand." My voice rose, my control slipping fast. "Do you even get what you just did? You took everything we had, everything I thought we were, and you threw it in the damn trash for some guy on a game. Some random dude you've never even known in real life." She flinched like I had hit her. "He's not just some random guy." My blood ran cold. She knew it the second she said it. She clamped her mouth shut, eyes going wide like she wanted to suck the words back in. But it was too late. I stared at her, my breathing shallow. "Not just some random guy," I repeated slowly. Her hands trembled at her sides. I didn't mean it like that." "Yes, you did," I said, my voice eerily calm now. "Yes, you did." And that was the moment I knew. That was the moment I understood just how deep this went. She had feelings for him. Not some stupid crush, not some meaningless online flirtation. Real feelings. And that was worse than if she had just slept with him. Physical affairs could be impulsive. A mistake. A lapse in judgment. But this was worse. This was deliberate. My stomach twisted in a way I had never felt before. "You love him," I said, more to myself than to her. She gasped, shaking her head frantically. "No, I never said that. But you feel it, don't you?" I pressed, stepping closer. "You want to be with him. That's what you said, isn't it?" She looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't care. "Tell me the truth," I demanded. "Do you love him?" Her breath hitched. And then the final nail in the coffin. "I don't know." That was all I needed to hear. I turned away, shaking my head, a bitter laugh slipping past my lips. "Wow." She reached for me, her voice frantic now. "Wait, please, just listen to me." I ripped my arm away. "Don't touch me. Please," she begged, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean for this to happen." I spun back around, my vision practically red. "You chose this." She shook her head quickly. "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did," I roared. "You let it happen. You had every chance to stop it, to tell me, to fix this. But you didn't. You wanted this." She opened her mouth, but no excuse came. Because she knew I was right. Silence stretched between us, the weight of her betrayal suffocating. I should have been devastated. I should have been heartbroken. But I wasn't. All I felt was hatred. I turned away again, shoving my hands into my pockets just to keep them from shaking. "This marriage is done," I said, my voice cold and final. Her breath hitched. "No, it's not." "Yes, it is." I looked at her one last time, and I knew I would never see her the same way again. "You made your choice," I said. "Now live with it." And with that, I walked away. I didn't stop when she called my name. Didn't stop when I heard her start to cry. Didn't stop when I got into my car and drove away from the life I thought was mine. Because the truth was clear now. It had never been mine to begin with. I drove for hours without knowing where I was going. The roads blurred together, the streetlights stretching into long, glowing lines as I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. My mind replayed everything. Her voice, those words, the way she looked at me like she wanted to lie, but knew she couldn't anymore. I want to be with you, not with him. He's not just some random guy. I don't know. That last one was the worst. That hesitation, that tiny crack of honesty in the middle of all her pathetic excuses, it told me more than she ever could. She felt something for him. Maybe she hadn't slept with him. Maybe they hadn't crossed that line yet. But that almost made it worse. Because it wasn't just about sex. It was about him. She had checked out of our marriage a long time ago, and I had been too blind to see it. Too trusting. Too much of a fool to realize that every time she laughed into that headset, every time she whispered in her mic while I was asleep, every time she told me she was just playing her game, she was really playing me. I slammed my fist against the dashboard, the pain sharp and immediate. I didn't care. I wanted to feel something that wasn't just this bottomless rage. The irony? If she had just told me, if she had come to me months ago and admitted she was unhappy, maybe we could have fixed it. Maybe we could have worked through whatever had driven her to that damn game in the first place. But no, she didn't want to fix things. She wanted him. And now, she could have him. Because I was done. The return to the wreckage. At some point, I ended up at a gas station. I wasn't even sure how I got there. I sat in the driver's seat, staring at the neon glow of the convenience store sign, my mind blank. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I didn't want to look. I knew who it was. I let it go to voicemail. Then it buzzed again, and again. Eventually, I sighed and grabbed it, my stomach twisting at the sight of her name flooding my notifications. Missed calls, texts, all variations of the same thing. Please come back. Can we talk? I swear it wasn't like that. I don't want to lose you. Please. Pathetic. She wasn't sorry she had done it. She was sorry she got caught. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and got out of the car, needing something, anything to clear my head. By the time I got back in, I had made up my mind. I was going home, not because I wanted to fix things, but because I needed to end them. The last stand. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked different, colder, emptier, like whatever warmth had once existed inside had been completely drained out. I sat there for a long time, gripping the wheel, staring at the front door like it was a portal to hell. Then I stepped out. The second I walked in, I heard her. She was pacing in the living room, phone in hand, probably about to call me again. When she saw me, she froze, eyes wide, relief washing over her face like she thought I had come back to forgive her. I shut the door behind me, locking it. "Where were you?" she asked, her voice small, careful. I ignored the question. "We're done." Her face crumpled. "No, we're not." "Yeah, we are." I tossed my keys onto the counter, stepping toward her. "This marriage is dead. You killed it the second you started sneaking around." Tears welled in her eyes. "Please." I shook my head. "You don't get to beg now. You made your choice. Now live with it." She moved closer, reaching for me, but I stepped back. Her face twisted in desperation. "I love you," she said, her voice breaking. I let out a bitter laugh. "You don't even know what that means." "I do," she insisted. "I swear it was just..." "Just what?" I cut her off. "A mistake? A friendship? A harmless crush?" I scoffed. "No, it was a choice. A series of choices. And every single one of them led us here." She wiped at her face, shaking her head. "I don't want to lose you." I clenched my jaw. "You already did." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then she whispered, "Is there anything I can do?" For the first time that night, I really looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman standing in front of me wasn't my wife anymore. She was just a stranger wearing my wife's face. And I felt absolutely nothing for her. "No," I said. And then, for the first time since this nightmare began, I walked away on my own terms. She didn't stop me. She just stood there, watching as I grabbed my jacket, picked up my phone, and headed toward the door. I hesitated for only a second before turning back. "This house," I said, voice cold. "I don't want it anymore. Pack your things. I'll figure out where I'm staying tomorrow." She opened her mouth, but I was already gone. I stepped outside, breathing in the cold night air, and realized something. For the first time in months, I felt free. The night air wrapped around me as I stepped off the porch, my boots hitting the pavement harder than necessary. It wasn't just a walk, it was an exit, a way to rip myself away from the wreckage of what had been my life. Behind me, the house stood still, frozen in time like a monument to the lie I had been living. The woman inside, my wife, was still standing in the doorway. I could feel her watching me, even though I refused to look back. I should have been angry. I should have been furious. But all I felt now was exhaustion. A deep, crushing weight that settled into my bones, heavier than the rage I had carried for hours. She had begged. She had cried. She had tried to pull me back with her empty words, with her trembling voice, with the same mouth that had whispered someone else's name into her headset late at night. I want to be with you, not with him. The words still burned in my skull, but they didn't cut like they had before. Because now I understood. She had never been mine, not really. I had just been holding onto the ghost of something that had died a long time ago. I reached my car, opened the door, but before I got in, I made the mistake of turning around. She was still there, standing in the doorway, barefoot, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold, like she was the victim in all of this. For a split second, I hated her even more. She wasn't crying anymore, but her eyes were wet, red-rimmed, shining under the dim porch light. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Somewhere that isn't here," I said flatly. She swallowed, nodding slowly like she understood, like she was accepting it. And maybe she was. Maybe she knew there was nothing left to say. But then, because she was her, she had to try one more time. I didn't sleep with him. I stiffened, fingers tightening around the edge of the car door. A weak defense. A desperate one. The last crumbling brick in the fragile wall she was trying to build between herself and the truth. I exhaled sharply. And I'm supposed to care? She flinched. Good. She had spent months lying to me, making me feel like some fool sitting in the next room while she whispered to another man. But now she wanted to hold on to technicalities? Like that made it any better? Like that saved her? I shook my head. It wasn't about sex, and you know it. Her breath hitched, and she looked down at her bare feet like she didn't want to meet my eyes anymore. "You gave him something that was mine," I said, my voice calmer now. "You let him have the part of you that was supposed to belong to me." Silence. Then she whispered, "I don't know why I did it." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's the worst part, isn't it?" She blinked up at me, confused. "You did all of this," I said, gesturing at her, at the house, at everything. "And you don't even have a damn reason." A muscle twitched in her jaw, her eyes shimmering with something that almost looked like guilt. I felt lonely. I scoffed. "Lonely?" I took a step closer, my voice razor-sharp. "You shut me out. You chose that headset over your own husband. You chose to stay up all night laughing with him while I slept alone. You chose this." She squeezed her arms tighter around herself, her body curling inward. "I never want to hurt you." My fingers curled into fists, but I forced myself to take a slow, steady breath. "I don't care what you wanted," I said. "I care about what you did." Her breath hitched, and for the first time, I saw a real panic settle into her features. Maybe she hadn't believed I would actually leave. Maybe she thought this was just another fight, another storm we'd weather, another wound that time would close. But she was wrong. This wasn't a wound. This was a severed artery, and there was no stitching it back together. She took a small step forward, her hands reaching slightly, almost like she wanted to touch me, but she hesitated. "Please don't go," she whispered. I stared at her. For a long moment, I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, finally I spoke. I already did. And with that, I got in my car and drove away, leaving her standing in the doorway of the life we had destroyed. The aftermath. I didn't go far at first. I pulled into a parking lot a few miles away, turned off the engine, and just sat there. Everything inside me was raw, hollowed out. I had spent years building a life with this woman. A life I thought was solid, unshakable. But in the end, it had all been an illusion. She had been slipping away from me for months, maybe even years, and I had been too blind to see it. Or maybe I had seen it, but I hadn't wanted to believe it. I ran a hand through my hair, letting out a slow breath. I had choices to make now. Divorce? Separation? Did I want to fight for the house? Or did I just want to walk away and never set foot in that place again? I didn't have the answers yet. All I knew was that I would never be able to look at her the same way again. My phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Her name. Again. I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to hear her voice. Not now. Not ever. Instead, I leaned back in my seat, staring out at the empty parking lot, and let the silence settle in. For the first time in a long time, I was alone, and maybe that wasn't a bad thing. I sat in that parking lot for a long time. Long enough for the engine's warmth to fade, long enough for the night to settle in completely, long enough to realize that I wasn't just sitting there, I was stalling. But what the hell was I waiting for? For my phone to buzz again? For her to send another empty, desperate message? For something to suddenly make sense? It was pathetic. I scoffed at myself, shaking my head. She had taken months to chip away at our marriage, to grind it down into nothing but a pile of dust and regret. And here I was, sitting in a damn parking lot, as if I needed more time to understand what had already been made crystal clear. I was done with her, done with the lies, done with us. Yet, no matter how much I tried to push it away, my mind kept going back to the moment I first heard her say those words on Discord. I want to be with you, not with him. It had been like a bullet to the chest. Not a clean shot, not a kill shot. No, it was the kind of wound that made you bleed slow, that left you gasping for air, that made you watch yourself die, while the person you loved stood there holding the gun, acting like they had no idea why you were hurt. I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing my fingers against my temples. I had wasted so much time on her. All those nights, I had gone to bed alone while she sat in that dark room, whispering into her mic. All the times I had told myself, it's just a game, she's just playing with her friends, nothing is wrong. All the times I had ignored the nagging feeling in my gut, the one that told me something was wrong, that something had already broken between us, that she had already left me in every way that mattered. I let out a breath, slow and controlled, and finally picked up my phone. Unread messages. I know you hate me. Please just talk to me. I'll do anything to fix this. Please don't leave me. I'm so sorry. I stared at the words, my fingers hovering over the screen. And I did the only thing that made sense. I turned off my phone. I wasn't interested in hearing her apologies, her excuses, her desperate attempts to drag me back into the mess she had created. She wasn't sorry she had betrayed me. She was sorry that I had caught her. That was the difference. The choice. By the time I started the car again, I had made my decision. I wasn't going back to the house tonight. Hell, I wasn't sure I'd ever go back. That place wasn't my home anymore. Maybe it never had been. I drove aimlessly for a while, letting the empty streets swallow me whole. I passed hotels, motels, gas stations, places where I could crash for the night, but none of them felt right. Then, without really thinking about it, I found myself pulling into the parking lot of my best friend's apartment complex. Mike, the only person I could call at this hour. I sat in the car for a moment, staring up at the second-floor balcony where I knew his place was. Lights still on. He was probably up. I sighed and grabbed my keys, stepping out. The truth comes out. Mike opened the door within seconds of me knocking, his eyes narrowing the second he saw my face. Jesus, he muttered, stepping aside so I could come in. What the hell happened to you? I didn't answer right away. I walked past him into his apartment, running a hand through my hair. His place was the same as always. Messy but lived in, the TV still playing some action movie in the background, the smell of leftover takeout lingering in the air. Mike shut the door behind me, arms crossed. You gonna tell me what's going on? Or do I have to guess? I exhaled sharply and finally said it. She's been cheating on me. His reaction was immediate. That bitch. I almost laughed at how fast it came out, but there was no humor left in me. I dropped onto his couch, leaning forward, elbows resting on my knees. She's been talking to some guy online. Months, apparently. I walked in on her telling him she wanted to be with him instead of me. Mike cursed under his breath, pacing. I knew something was off with her. I fucking knew it. I shot him a look. And you didn't say anything? What was I supposed to say? Hey man, I think your wife is acting shady. You wouldn't have believed me. He was wrong. Even now, it was hard to believe it. Mike sat across from me, shaking his head. So what now? I let out a slow breath. Divorce, I guess. It was the first time I had said the word out loud. It felt real now. Permanent. Final. Mike nodded like he had expected that answer. Good. You don't deserve this shit. She made her choice. Let her live with it. I rubbed my face, exhaustion creeping in. Yeah. Mike leaned back, watching me carefully. You need a place to crash? I hesitated. Technically, I still had a home. Still had a bed. But none of that felt like mine anymore. So I nodded. Yeah. Mike didn't ask questions. He just grabbed a blanket, tossed it onto the couch, and said, then stay as long as you need. I wasn't sure how long that would be. I wasn't sure of anything anymore. The beginning of the end. That night, I lay on his couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the TV in the background. Sleep didn't come easy. I kept thinking about all the nights she had stayed up gaming while I was in bed alone. All the times she had probably minimized chat windows when I walked into the room. All the moments I had trusted her when I shouldn't have. I wondered if she was still sitting in that house, waiting for me to come back. I wondered if she was still texting me, if she had realized yet that I had turned off my phone. I wondered if she had finally logged back in her game, if he was waiting for her, if she was whispering to him now instead. None of it mattered anymore. Tomorrow, I'd call a lawyer. Tomorrow, I'd figure out what came next. Tonight, though, I was just a man lying on a couch in his best friend's apartment, trying to remember what it felt like not to be someone's fool. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something close to peace.